Welcome to another neXup podcast. I am your host, PC747. And this podcast is dedicated to covering the latest in tech news surrounding Android smartphones, tablets, and software. I started this podcast back in March, a year after I created my site, neXup.com. This podcast can be heard on a number of platforms such as SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and uploaded so that you can listen to it on YouTube. So I was motivated to start the neXup after working with the Android community for over a decade. I got pretty much started with the community with the Rescue Squad. Now, what is the Rescue Squad? It was a tech group that belonged to a forum back when the Droid kind of first got online, and it was pretty much providing free tech support for those who just wasn't familiar with the Android smartphone. You know, we provided help to anyone who needed it, and we did it in a way that tried to bring Android in a simplified form. And yeah, we didn't want anybody to feel like, just because they were new to Android, that there wasn't someone willing to take the time out to help them throughout various issues they may have, whether it been just from learning the phone itself, trying to root a phone and have things go wrong. We pretty much help them get their phone back to normal, especially at a time when rooting was kind of big and people was afraid to take their phone that was rooted to their carrier for fear of voiding their warranty. To be able to come to us and have just someone who was willing to understand what they were going through, because we did the same thing to our phones. And we were willing to take the same kind of patience that we wanted for us and bring that to them. But as we saw Android evolve and more people started picking up the phone and less people started rooting, I started evolving, my desire in as far as where my purpose was with Android, shifting from tech support more into writing and the sharing of ideas. And this led me to wanting to start my own podcast. And this is pretty much where I'm at now, talking about Android phone and news. But even with me making the talk about Android phone and news the primary purpose of this podcast, my site is still dedicated to providing the same kind of tech support that I did when I was on the Rescue Squad to the average user today. And I try to make sure I can do that through a number of simple tips or videos that are designed to, speak to those who may be new to Android and want someone to kind of slow it down for them. They're new, they haven't done it before, and they just want someone kind of just to slow the tips down, to, as one person put it, not use all these tech terms that they're not familiar with, but break it down into simplified terms so, they can kind of get an idea what's going on and being able to use the device. So today's show, it's pretty much going to be about Google I/O. It was pretty much, I ain't going to say pretty much, it was a topic of this week. There was not really much else to talk about. Google came out to I/O, and they had a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and really just get down to it. And those of you that's kind of new to this whole community, you may be wondering, okay, what is this Google I/O? I've been seeing a lot of things come up about it on the blogs, on the Twitterverse. I'm pretty sure you may have seen it pop up on a couple of news sites and so on. So pretty much it's their development conference. And it's really kind of designed to bring forth the software that they've been working on to a number of media pundits and let everyone know where they will be going with their platform either this year or in the future. And let's go ahead and start talking about what they kind of did with the software. And let me back up real quick. Now, I said that I/O was designed to bring you really the software, but they did drop a couple of things as far as hardware. We got a Google 3A and 3A XL, as well as another home product. Well, let's start with the Google 3A and talk about it, because for me, Well, we're talking about a phone that Google wants to bring back as a more affordable smartphone for people to buy, similar to what they did with their Nexus phone, which was very popular for a number of reasons, but mainly because the price point was right there. It provided a lot of the features that were in a flagship, but at a price point that was more ideal for people. And Google wanted to go ahead and do that again with their Pixel line that is a lot more popular now than what the Nexus ever was. More people know this line. More people know what the Pixel is. We're talking about the same phone that was in Avengers Endgame. This phone. So we know that, yeah, people know what it is. And as far as specs, when you put it up against a lot of the flagships out there, you're looking at something that can pretty much compete. For where it's at, being a mid-level phone. Is it going to be the greatest thing that you've seen? No. But for most people that are looking for a phone that's, starting at $399, they're not going to really complain. You're talking about quad-core processor, the RAM, it's going to perform for what most people wanted to do. And in fact, when you compare it to the Pixel 3, the big brother, you got the same camera, the same great software, and when you look at RAM, about the same. The only difference is, like I said, is the build is a little bit more plastic. The processor is not going to be as powerful, but for the average user, they're going to be all right with this. And this is going to be a great starting point for a lot of people who are just tired of the $1,000 smartphones. They want a software that is going to last, it's going to get updated, it's going to perform. They want a great camera. This is for them. And with the fact that more carriers are going to be getting this phone, such as Sprint, T-Mobile, as well as being available at Best Buy, I think this may be something that is going to work for Google. Now, I actually had a change of heart because when I first saw it unveiled and saw the price point, at first I kind of felt like it was a missed opportunity for Google. I kind of wanted them to price that thing a little bit cheaper, close to around the same price as a Motorola G7. But then I had to take a step back and really think about what I was asking for. With the Motorola G7 being, sub $200, this is product 3A and 3A XL is not meant to be that. Google already have a line of phones that are supposed to be at that price point in the Android One phones. So for people who are wanting something even cheaper than that, they can pick up something like a Motorola One, as well as any of the other Android One smartphones that will run a lighter version of Android to accommodate for the hardware that is not going to be able to handle or may not be able to handle all of the software as some of your mid-tier and flagship phones. But this phone at $399 is a sweet spot now that I think about it. It's a great point or a great spot for someone who wants something a little bit more than an entry-level phone. They want something that's going to be a phone that's going to last, but like I said, it's not going to be something that breaks the bank. And if that's you, check it out. I don't think you're going to be missing out on this phone. And when you look at it compared to the 3X and 3XL, it looks almost pretty much identical. In fact, one of the things I said in my article that I liked was that I can take this phone, sit it next to a Pixel 3, 3XL, especially when you look at it from the back, and you feel like you belong. You don't feel like there's an obvious difference. And I compare that more to if you take something like the Galaxy S10e or the iPhone XR, you can tell that those two versions are the cheaper version of their big brothers. But with this phone, again, when you look at it from the back, it really looks very similar to the flagship devices. So it's not like if you walk around with it, someone's going to be able to spot it off the bat that you are using the cheaper version. And for a lot of people, that's going to be, something they want, a phone that, looks and feel just like the flagships that are out there, but without the flagship price. And this is capturing what the Nexus phone has always been about. outside of just leading the hardware and software trend that Google and their fans have loved. And for, again, a lot of people, this is a great phone and it's going to last. And yeah, go ahead and pick one up if you're interested, because you're going to have a number of carriers you're going to be able to use this on. And it's not going to be very hard to pick one up. Now, the device for me that really stood out is something I'm likely going to jump on board is the latest Google Home. So Google Home is going to be switching names, and they're going to be picking up the Nest name, as Google will be looking to further integrate their home product under one name, and that name is going to be Nest. And for them, Nest is pretty much that name that seems to capture more people's attention. So the device I'm particularly interested in will be the Nest Hub Max, and this product will combine this large booming speakers of the Google Home Max and the Nest camera, something that everyone is aware of. That also camera that's been used for security is now going to be part of this device, which will be able to be used for, obviously, security, as well as making video calls using Duo. But then you're going to add on there the large 10-inch display, which you're going to be able to use to watch various videos, whether it be through YouTube, YouTube TV, or a number of streaming platforms, minus Netflix for now. But then you throw in it smart gestures, which will be able to detect you lifting up your hand to be able to pause and play a video. Something that's going to be very useful if you're in the kitchen cooking or you're busy doing something. And yeah, you just, for whatever reason, are not able to yell at the device to pause or whatever. You just raise your hand and it stops. And that's going to be something that's going to be really a nice addition. But all of that's going to be powered by the central intelligence of the Google Assistant and priced at $230. Like I said, this is something I'm really interested in. And it will replace my Google Home Mini over there. This device is really packaged a lot in a small frame. It really takes the Google display that they had last year, Google Home display that they had last year, and it just kind of blow it up to something a little bit bigger to be able to fit on a lot of people's kitchen counters or entryway counter and serve as, like I said, a little small TV they can have, as well as provide the master speakers for music and media, and be able to control lights and television, anything else using Google Home's Assistant, which we all are aware of for using to get weather information, latest news, and so on. So if you're interested in it, it's going to come out in the following colors: charcoal and chalk, or basically black and white. Now, I expect to see more colors later. I know Google before will put out 2 colors for now, and then as it get later on in the year, or maybe even around the Christmas period, we'll drop out some other colors to get more people wanting to buy on board. But black and white, are the smart colors to introduce this product with, because it's something that will pretty much fit with almost any and everyone's setup at home. Just having a black and white device, it goes pretty much almost with anything. So yeah, I really like the job that Google did. But let's go ahead and continue on with the purpose of Google I/O, and that again was really to talk about their software. And Google did a good job of driving home the vision of making the software work for almost any and everybody. Those that are hearing impaired will soon have caption available any and everywhere, including be able to have your caption show up on your Google Photos. I remember just watching the presentation of it alone and just, being moved by what Google was trying to do with their software. Just seeing how they wanted to take and allow anybody, regardless of their situation, to be able to have access and interact with their devices, removing as many barriers as they can, whether it be language, physical, or just in general, anything. They basically wanted to make sure you as a user had the chance to be able to interact with their software. And, one of the videos they showed that really, touched me was how they had someone who was quadriplegic and, just taking his eye movements and using it to try to find ways to interact with a device where he was able to communicate in just real speech what he was able to want or able to do or what he was wanting. And another thing, taking someone whose voice box was damaged and couldn't speak, or someone that was unable to really speak with language that most people can understand, and taking the sounds and their grunts and translating it into a way where, well, one, Google can understand it, but also making it to where if he wanted to have a conversation with you, he could take his grunts and turn it into literally like a way of translating what he is saying so that you can understand it. And this software, we're going to see powering all of your Android phones, hubs, TVs, cars, and it's going to be almost around all the world, allowing more and more people to interact, regardless of what their situation, where they come from, or their language. And this software is, it's doing so much to make it more personal to you. Finding music that interests you, restaurants that is for you, or location based on everything because it knows you. Pretty much Google Assistant is your personal assistant. And it knows all your information. And it's able to take all that information and make it to where it's useful for the average user to be able to do almost any and everything just by interacting with their phone. Using technology and machine learning to learn you and learn your interests and get an idea to kind of suggest things for you, suggest restaurants for you, suggest songs for you, and get an idea where you want to go with that. And even though it's, again, a machine, it's getting more and more intelligent to the point where it's like you're talking to an actual assistant with the ability to continue on conversations where you don't have to continue to say the hot word over and over again. And using Duplex, which is something that brought out last year as a way to use your phone to make a call for you to make an appointment. Now you're going to be able to do this through a web browser, meaning more and more people will have the ability to make appointments, rent cars, and make reservations just from your Google browser, your Chrome browser. Imagine that. You know you're going to be busy. So, we all been there. We at work. We got something we need to do. But hey, you can't really pull away from work to make a reservation or to do something. But you got something that's important that needs to get done. We all can't afford to hire a personal assistant to do it for us, and we not always have the opportunity to have someone else do it for us. But with this technology, you will be able to say to your phone to call this place at this time and make a reservation for me. And it's able to do that. It will call up whatever rent-a-car place it is or restaurant and say, hey, look, this is me. I would like to set up a reservation for this person for this time to this time. And using the technology to be able to fill in the blanks for you. That is where we're going with this technology. It's like we're in the age of the Jetsons. And we continue on to see this software continue to evolve into a way where we're seeing it become smarter with driving. Now, we've all been there. We've been on the road before, and an example would be if you're in traffic. You're heading somewhere, and out of nowhere, traffic comes to pretty much a crawl. We've all been there. 1 minute you're barely crawling along. Next minute, it feels like the traffic picking up. Before you know, you're slamming on brakes again. And in that situation, you can't quite interact with your phone. Why? Because, you maybe look down to try to, see what's going on with maps to see if there's an accident going on. Next thing you know, you look up and you running right into the back of somebody else's car. So in this situation, and I think we've all been there. I know I've been there where, okay, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but I can't really interact with my phone because I need to be paying attention, and, even for those who are trying to be responsible. Not everybody's always trying to be on their phone and play with their phone, going through Twitter when they should be driving. There are a lot of us out there who do everything we can is to stay off our phone while we're driving. But there are times when you need to pick up your phone to see what's going on, especially if you're driving through a place that you're not familiar with, and you're like, okay, where's this turn I need to make? Is there a way around this traffic? What's going on? And when you try to do it now with your Android phone, you find yourself, spending more time trying to tap it up against, your air conditioning vent, and it's not doing what you need to do. And before you know, you have to pick the phone up off of it and actually look down and make the proper selection, putting yourself in a more dangerous situation than you intend to be. And this is where driving mode is coming in and really taking advantage of machine learning. Understanding where you're trying to go and update it to a way where it provides all your information right there at your fingertips. Becoming a mode of a heads-up display where everything's right there. Maps to navigate where you need to go, as well as in knowing where you're going, so that if you do get stuck in traffic, assistant can let you know of routes to go around. But it's in a dashboard where it has everything right there in front of you. Even the latest thing that you would listen to music-wise, as it has media information, traffic information, as well as your latest text and stuff that's out there, so that you can interact all of that without really having to navigate and play around with your phone. It's right there. And because it's powered by Assistant, it understands your voice, so you can literally tell your device to find me an alternate route, respond to this person that I'm stuck in traffic and I'm gonna be late. Knowing that before you even get in the car, because you told it that I'm going to work, home, grandma's house, to a restaurant, because it knows those locations, it's already looking ahead for you. And when it senses a slowdown, will be able to start directing you to go another route. This is all coming soon to more and more smartphones. And this is the type of software innovation we're finding that is useful, that more and more people are going to want to have access to, because it actually works in a way to allow us to be more focused on the road and less focused on our phone, to make that where it's more practical to be able to do that. Because as much as you want to say to someone, get off your phone, leave your phone alone, not everyone, again, is on there looking around through Facebook and Twitter or Instagram. Some people actually are lost and trying to figure their way around a new city or aren't familiar with their location. And before we try to get all self-righteous and you need to just pull over and after your phone, sometimes that's not always practical. So to have software that is at a point where it can serve that for them, it's going to make our roads safer, to allow people to focus more on the road. And as we continue to talk about some of the focuses, of the main focus of where Google is trying to go in I/O, privacy is pretty much a big thing for them. It has to be. They was at the forefront of scrutiny with privacy. It's the same company where they was in front of Congress talking about some of their information and what are they doing with personal privacy and their data. And people want to know, what are you doing with my data? Because we continue to hear about companies out there taking our data and selling it to some sleazy third-party company. And we feel like we have lost control of our information to a point where a lot of people, they just don't want it anymore. So what Google is doing here is trying to make it more transparent. What is being collected? And putting it in your hands to be able to decide what you want to have collected, what you don't want to have collected. What apps you want to have access to your location, and what shouldn't. Even better, it's more easy to find this. For those of us who are very familiar with Android, we know how to get to a Google Assistant and change that. But what if you're new to it? Now you got to dig through your phone and be able to try to figure it out. Where you may have someone who is not trustworthy, is able to find your data information faster and more easily than you were able to. And this is where Google is doing a good job making this more transparent and more easy for you to access it and to manage it. So easily from the search bar, assistant, or even maps, you'll be able to click on your picture and get to your data and see what is being collected, who has it, what is being done with it, and decide what you want to do with it. For example, you can set a time limit on when your location will be scrubbed. So let's say if you're using Google Maps for a certain location, and you say after 3 years, I want this scrub. You can set that. And it's all made easy for any and everyone to figure that out. Even more important is bringing incognito mode to more apps out there, particularly maps. Why is that important? Well, if a person need to go somewhere, whether it be to a doctor or something like that, and they don't want that information shared, they can go in incognito mode. And this is, again, something that is going to be a welcome addition to Android for a lot of people out there. And hopefully, it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable with where Android and what Google is trying to do with their devices. Because a number of us, we're not just using our phones for work. In fact, we're not the only ones who have phones. A lot of people, their kids have phones. It's now, you can say, the Game Boy of today. As more and more people are interacting with their phones, more kids are using phones for school, to call their parents, obviously, to pick them up from practice, as well as to play games and interact with their friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just as you can access all kinds of information on your phone, they can. And just as you're getting all kinds of spam and stuff coming to your phone, they may be getting it. And I know a lot of parents may want more control of that. And with Family Link, they're going to have that. They're going to be able to control more on their kids' device, such as seeing what apps they're installing, as well as you controlling what apps get installed. And you can even go on there and decide how much time your kids are able to spend on the phone. Something that I know parents are glad to have at their fingertips, to be able to set a bedtime for their kids, saying that at this time, phone is off. And even be able to throw in extra minutes in there if they want to. But as we continue to see smartphones being used and more for just education and even shopping, Google is taking their software and finding ways to literally bring information to the fingertips of any and everybody. And with augmented reality, something that we saw Google kind of play around with their, you've seen a commercial where you have the Iron Man or as well as Childish Gambino right there with your Google Pixel phone. Well, with augmented reality, through search, you'll be able to research a number of things, such as, let's just say you want to see what a great white shark looks like. So just from searching, you're not only going to be able to see it, but you can see it interact right there like it's in your living room. And with them partnering with companies like NASA and other organizations, you're going to be able to use that in the field of medicine to be able to bring more information for people to be able to research and study with. But let's be honest, you can also be able to use it for practical things such as shopping, as they're going to be partnering with companies like Target and New Balance, where you're going to be able to literally see what you're buying. Shoes, for example. Right there, you can see what it looks like it's right there in your living room. So you don't have to make the trip driving all the way to Target or to a place that sell that shoe. Especially with more and more people buying things online. This will make it easier to kind of get an idea to see what it looks like, see maybe how it would look like against something you plan on wearing with it. Yeah, and be able to make that decision. And this, again, is taking smart technology that Google has been working on and making it more practical for more and more people to be able to use it in everyday life, making their lives easier. Lastly, I want to talk about Android Q and what we expect to see coming in the fall in the final build. So the first thing, dark theme is official. Now, it isn't a full theme manager. In fact, in a way, I'm kind of disappointed, and it's still time that we don't have a full theme manager there. But at least you do have this option, and you don't have to dig all through development option to find it. Something that we had to do when we were playing with Beta 1. No, it's going to be right there in your notification setting. You will be able to swipe down and literally toggle whether you want to go from dark theme to a lighter theme. As you know, dark themes seem to do better with saving on battery life. So for those who are just trying to get that last little bit out of that battery, but you're not quite low enough when you want to go to battery saving mode, you can just click that toggle, switch things to dark theme, and you're good to go. And this comes in handy not just for, being, if you want to save in battery, but if you're in like a dark location, for example, if you're in a theater and, it's right before a movie is showing, but you're in the previews, you don't want to, you interact with your phone, but you don't want to sit there and blind the person next to you just in case, they're trying to enjoy the previews. Having a white theme can just throw that off, but to be able to swipe down, switch to the dark theme, and drop the level of brightness, it allows you to still be able to do what you need to do on your phone right before the main event without you affecting everyone else's view. And the other thing they obviously want to be focused on with Android Q, which is something that they're talked about, is foldable phones. Because we know that a lot of companies will be bringing out these foldable phones this year. We saw Samsung with their Galaxy Fold, which looks like may end up getting scrapped. Hopefully that don't be the case, but right now some of the publications I've seen out there showing that Samsung may actually be scrapping that thing. And I'll be further keeping up with that and keep you guys up to date whether that end up being the case or not. But for other companies out there that we're obviously going to be seeing this technology being made available for purchase this year, they're going to need a software that's going to be a part of that. And Android is ready for that. Q. It's going to be designed to bring continuity mode, which pretty much is going to allow you, if you're playing on a game or you're interacting with a map and you're going from folded mode to unfolded mode, or vice versa, it's going to continue on without interruption so that you can continue doing what you're doing with a smooth transaction. Feeling like, it's a seamless transition. And talking about new technology, 5G, the hype is here. You got a lot more people jumping on 5G, talk about it. More 5G towers are lighting up across the nation. So as that go on, more people are going to want 5G phones, and you're going to need the software for that. And Android Q is going to be able to support 5G. Gestures. Now I got to talk about this one. Now for me, this is not anything new. But before I talk about why that's a thing that some people may not care about, let me go ahead and talk about what they're looking to do. So those who are familiar with the latest iPhone, where you don't have a home button, you're familiar with this. Apple went to pretty much an all gesture base. And Google kind of experimented with that a couple years ago to make it to where they was almost to a full gesture phone, but they kind of didn't go all the way there yet for fear of a lot of users not wanting that. So they just stuck with the pill for now to kind of get people to that point. Well, they know for some people that was just a turn off for them. So one, you are going to be able to bring back your 3D navigation buttons. So if you're someone who look, I don't like this navigation thing, give me my buttons, you're going to get that. For those that like the pill, you're going to continue on to use that. But those that want to go to full gesture mode, well, expect to see that in the fall. Which means if you want to go home, you're going to swipe up real quick. If you want to go to your recent app or your last app, you're going to have to swipe up and to the right. If you want to quickly navigate through all of your past tasks, you can swipe across the bottom real quick. And as far as the back button, which is now gone, you're going to swipe either from the left or to the right of your screen. Like I said, this is very similar to the iPhone. And for a lot of people, they may not like this. Now, I've actually had a chance to play with this on my OnePlus 6T, as this was an available option then. And for the most part, what I did like about having the all navigation display that was on the OnePlus 6T was because the buttons were removed, I got more screen real estate. But it did take a while to get used to with the navigations. And you can tell that a lot of apps really didn't do a good job as far as handling the navigation. But since Google is making this something that they're wanting to push, I'm thinking you're going to see more apps kind of have that baked, and you're going to see it interact better. But for right now, playing with them on my beta 3, you can kind of see that even some Google apps, it's not really ready to go as far as going all screen navigation. But, you know, we'll have to see how that works when they release the final build. Now, as far as security updates, and this is going to be big for really a lot of phones out there. You know, we've talked about one of the biggest things with Google was fragmentation. One of their biggest Achilles heel is getting their software updated because, you know, a lot of times it's not really their fault. You know, if you got a phone like a Google Pixel, you know you won't get your updates because it's coming straight from Google. But you're not always getting that from, you know, companies like Samsung or LG or something like that. And there's some software that you really need to have, especially your security updates. So Google is looking to try to make that easier by making your security updates updated through the Play Store. You're already able to update apps. So if you're able to bring security updates to the Play Store, it should be easier to get your updates to more and more phones so that, yeah, they can make sure crucial updates are getting to Android phones. Even if they don't get the build software updates, at least the phone is safe as far as security-wise. Now, not only were you going to be able to see, you know, your security updates are on there, but Google's also looking to make sure eventually bring software updates to the Play Store, as well as setting it up where, let's say if you want an app and an update goes through, the app will be able to update even though you're still using the app. In other words, they'll be able to update in the background. So basically, they're making sure that, yeah, you are able to get the latest and greatest as far as software update to make sure your phone is more secure. So the latest thing, Smart Reply, is going to also be coming to Android Q. Now, what is Smart Reply? Well, pretty much machine learning reads your text messaging, and it come up with a series of replies for you. In other words, for example, if someone asking you, how are you doing, or how's your day? Google's machine learning will come up with a couple of real quick replies that you can just click a button and it automatically reply to that message, which a reply. And that comes in handy because if you're driving or if you got something going on and you really can't have a full text message going on, you can at least acknowledge the person, let them know, like, I see your text message, I got it, but I'm not going to be able to, quote, continue on a full conversation. This has been something that's been native to Google's messaging app, but now you're going to be able to see this available to pretty much all text messaging apps. So even if you are not using Google Messaging, if you're using, let's say, some third-party app, you still are going to be able to use Smart Reply. Another thing is going to be used with Smart Reply, since it's already reading your text message. Say if someone's saying, hey, meet us here, and they was to put a location, or say, this is going to be where we all meet at. They was to put an address. Well, when you swipe down from the notification bar and it sees the message that's reading, it's going to already or provide you the ability to click on Google Maps so you can, get the navigation to that location. And again, this machine learning we're seeing being made or being focused in a way to be more useful to people. And then let's talk about focus mode. As I see this as being the middle ground or marriage between do not disturb mode and well-being. So do not disturb mode, for a lot of people, if you're not aware of that, do not disturb mode allow you pretty much that. You know, you put your phone in do not disturb mode, you won't get any calls, you won't get any texts, you won't get anything that's going to disturb you. And this is basically ideal for those who, you about to go to sleep at night and you don't want to get woken up in the middle of the night because, you get a notification of somebody sent a something on Twitter. You're trying to get a full 8 hours sleep or 5 hours sleep or some hour bit of sleep, and now you're woken all the way up because someone decided they want to share something on Twitter. Well, again, with do not disturb mode, you can turn it all off. With the only thing that will be able to get through are those that you decide to get through. Which an example would be if you got a child out, or you want your family member call you, that will be the thing that wakes you up. But everything else won't go through. And then as far as the well-being, it basically shuts your phone off when, if you want a phone for too long, it kind of winds everything down to kind of get you off your phone. Well, I'll say this is a perfect marriage because let's say you don't quite want to go full do not disturb mode as you're using your phone for something, studying, research, or whatever. But at the same time, you don't want to be distracted by, again, Twitter, especially if someone is like, I got finals, or I got this going on, I got to get this done, and if I don't get it done now, I know I'm not going to get it done later. So you finally get in that mode, you're studying, you're on your phone, you're doing what you need to do, and next thing you know, someone pop up, or something exciting pop up on Twitter. You see a notification for the new Spider-Man trailer or something. Next thing you know, you find yourself, you're watching the trailer, you're watching the reaction trailers, and now all of a sudden you all out of study mode. So with focus mode, you can actually decide what apps are allowed to disturb you and which are not. Meaning stuff like Twitter and all that stuff will be silent, so it'll never pop up on your phone, so that you can basically study, get through all your studying, and prepare for your finals, and then later on, then you can check out what's going on as far as the latest Spider-Man trailer. So yeah, this is definitely going to be useful for a lot of people who are needing something like that. And the last couple of things that I want to talk about as far as Android Q is live caption, which is something I talked about earlier. Android Beam will be making an exit, which a lot of people, I don't think they're using Android Beam anymore, so it won't be missed. And we're going to be seeing more and more, or actually more manufacturers have jumped on the Beta 3. So that means we're going to see possibly more phones come out with Android Q this year, or get updated to Android Q, which is a good thing. And if you want a Pixel, you can jump on Q Beta 3 right now, as well as a number of phones. Matter of fact, if you want to find out if your phone is able to download and install Android Q Beta 3, you can go into Google's website and they'll show you. But to be honest with you, unless you got a backup phone, I would highly recommend you do not download a beta. Because betas, for those who are not familiar, are pretty much unfinished software, so it will have bugs and it may cause some issues, which means if you have apps that are working fine, it may not be working fine when you use the beta. So if this is your primary device, I highly recommend you do not go to the latest beta. And this pretty much wraps up Google I/O 2019. And yeah, Google put out a lot of good information as far as software, and I'm liking the direction where they're going. Really focus on taking their software and just kind of continue to improve it. And right now, in practical sense, for those who have got a chance to play with it, some of the things are buggy. They got some issues. And I know Google want to, have some code to clean up to get it right. But if they stick with it, continue to drive it home, we're going to continue to see our devices become more and more tools for us, where it actually serves more of a purpose other than just being something to play games on. It's actually going to really help be useful in day-to-day lives. So I'm just enjoying what I saw come out of Google I/O 2019. It kind of continues to get me excited about Android and where it continues to go software-wise. And I can't wait to continue to see, some of the latest software additions make its way to my phone in the fall, if not in the coming months. But for my closing topic, I want to talk about an article I read on Android Police. And it was talking about the decline of smartphones. In fact, I want to go ahead and pull this article up real quick to make sure I give the writer credit for it, because actually I felt this was an interesting topic. And it was written by Manuel, I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm going to spell his last name, Vonau. It was talking about the decline in American smartphones, or smartphones in the American market, North American market to be exact. And on average, we saw pretty much a 20% drop from last year to this year. I mean, we know this is the case because Google pretty much talked about the decline in their Pixel 3 phones as far as purchases, which for me, there was a good reason why people held off on that one. But I mean, there's an obvious reason why people are not buying phones every year anymore. And I don't really see this as being a surprise. You know what? Phones becoming more and more expensive now. You know, $1,000 for a flagship. Man, people ain't trying to buy a phone every year when you spend $1,000 for it. They're not feeling that. You know, and then the thing that made these phones so expensive, you know, the manufacturers putting all this glass and making these phones that's better and the software better, the hardware better, and putting the processing power behind it to where they're performing better than some computers out there. You don't need to update your phone every year, you know, because it's built to last. In fact, your phone will easily last you 2, if not 3 years. Especially if you pick a phone where the manufacturer continues to update it. You're not going to see a big decline or any decline between the phone that you have this year and the next phone that's coming out the next year. If manufacturers like Apple and Google, who do update their software like they're supposed to, if you buy one of their phones, you can pretty much keep it for 2 years and not feel like you're losing out because you don't get the latest and greatest. Now, Samsung, you know, actually, I need to either backtrack on that because Samsung is even getting better with their updates. As much as I constantly pick at them, they're starting to get better with their software updates. So even with their Galaxy phones, if you take care of your phone, it's going to last you for 2 years. And you don't have to pick one up every year. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. And that's why you're obviously seeing, you know, that decline. As well as just innovation, smartphone-wise, you're not seeing that big change. You know, you may see the display get a little bit better, you know, as far as on paper, you know, the processors are better. But for most people, you're not going to really be able to notice the difference. Unless you got the Pixel 3 XL, then of course, because, you know, they kind of cheaped out on how much RAM they put on it. But for everything else, you're going to be fine. You know, unless you're gaming hard on your phone, if you buy a phone, it's going to last for 2 years, if not longer, for the average things that you're doing with your phone. Making calls, navigation, going on Twitter, social media, etc. You're going to be able to do that on your phone without a problem. In fact, if you look at some of your mid-tier phones, your lower phones, you look at the specs, and you compare it to phones from the previous year, you'll see it. A lot of times, either they're on par or the previous year phone is still better than some of your low-tier phones as far as the specs-wise. So, really, if you think about it, a lot of your phones you get out there, if you want to really hold on it for longer than 2 years, it can easily last 2, maybe 3 years without a problem. And some people are able to go 4 or 5 years with it and not seeing anything where they feel like they are losing out. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not, you know, until we see some more innovation as far as smartphones, this is going to be the case. And really the real innovation that's exciting people right now is going to be your folding phones. And even for that, yeah, I mean, this is not the time to pick one up. I mean, seeing what Samsung is going through with the Galaxy Fold, even though it's an awesome looking device, it's something that we're glad they put out there, we know it's going to be a while before it's ready for everybody else to pick it up. It's still more of a concept idea, and it's not really prime time ready, as we've seen by the fact that Samsung decided to pull it right now. And we haven't had the opportunity to see what Huawei is going to deal with, or even Motorola. But as we start to see more and more of these folding phones get more and more out there, more hardware manufacturers started learning from it. We started seeing Apple put theirs out there, possibly Google put theirs out there. I think that's going to be the next innovation that will cause people to pick one up. That and 5G. As we start to see more 5G towers actually come out online, 5G actually gets right. We get the battery life that can handle the hardware that can back it, the software, and all that come together to where 5G is actually worth it. That's going to be the next push to really excite the market. But as far as people going out there and buying it every year, they're not going to, and I don't see the need for them to. So yeah, I mean, this is a good article, and it speaks to what we already know. As phones continue to get more expensive, as software continue to get better, as hardware continue to get better, people going to just hold on to their phones longer, and it makes sense. And yeah, manufacturers should have been, I can't be surprised at that. And it's going to really, I think, elevate the companies that decide to do right by their software. Companies like Google and Apple that continues to do better with their software, with software updates, constantly improving their phones, making their phones last longer and longer with their devices or with their software. They're going to see to find themselves around longer than manufacturers out there that are trying to do one and done, where they put a phone out there with a software and never attend to it, never update it, and never care about it. Because people, again, as they hold on to phones longer and start to become more aware about these things, such as software updates, they're going to start gravitating to manufacturers that are going to support their devices longer, because they're going to want to keep and hold on to their phones longer. And that makes sense. Anyway, this is PC747 with the neXup podcast. Thank you again for joining me. I'm out.